Getting into a conversation where there's a group of folks that seem to say that there is some kind of neglect when it comes to governance. And we're going to be having that conversation this morning. And even as we do, remembering that we are clicked in on our live streams of YouTube, of Facebook, and on X. And also, we continue to click in with our audiences on KTN this morning. A number of things that we've been looking into, and it's important to keep these conversations running, that this discourse has to be front and center of our minds and of our thoughts and of our actions, and necessary for us to do so regardless of where we are and what we do. Kenya's Biggest Conversation does that every morning, and we look at these issues that affect us. We look at the issues that essentially form and shape what our nations look like, what our regions look like, and indeed what the world looks like. And this morning, at this time, we have a conversation around the neglected voice of the youth when it comes to Kenya's politics. We're also joined in the studio by two guests this hour, and we're going to be talking into some of those issues right about now. We are joined today by like I said, it would best be a youth representation. And joining us this hour is Mwangu Atemo, who is a legal and compliance officer with KANU, and Otieno Mokaya, who is an advocate and youth leader, as we talk about the neglected voice of the youth. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Karibu sana to the hot seats of the Situation Room. And we seem to think that somebody's neglected or forgotten. But even as we do that, CT here goes to a different African country every week. And he gets a proverb from that country. And he was going to share that proverb with us today. And then you can tell us how you would interpret that. Is that all right?
Okay.
That's all right.
Kenyans, how are you doing?
Fine,
Good.
thank you.
Yourself?
Very well, thank you. We are in the Gabonese Republic. Would you venture to suggest what you think the capital of Gabon is? If you don't know, it's fine.
I don't know.
I'll tell you.
Please do.
Libreville. If I didn't do what I do on a daily basis, even I wouldn't know it. So it's okay.
Okay.
Yes, I know it because this is something that I do, so I get to know the capital. Yes. This is a country that was ruled by one family for 56 years. Omar Bongo was president, 1967, carried on until 2007, then his son took over until 2023 when there was a coup. It forms part of what we call the coup belt.
Okay.
West Africa is the areas of the Sahel and areas of Central Africa. That is a coup belt. Why? Because these countries in this region have been frequented by coups. You have a president, there's a coup. You have a coup, then there's another coup to coup the other coup. Yes, and then it goes on for a while. And it's gone on for seasons and decades, so hence the term coup belt.
Coup belt.
Because that's the area where you see a lot of it. Another proverb. A fool looks for dung where the cow never browsed.
Maybe we can start with you, Mwangu, yes.
A fool looks for dung where the cow never.
Browsed.
You cannot find a fault where something hasn't been done. So there must be a particular action to be done at a particular place for you to get a consequential result.
Beautiful. Very well said.
Very well said.
Kizungu kubwa.
Yes, consequential. Yes.
My interpretation of that, I come from a community where cows are a sign of wealth. I think and cow dung is a sign of an instrument we use for manure, and also sometimes it's waste.
And sometimes it's housing.
Yes, and sometimes it's housing. So I'll interpret it to mean if it's a problem, then a fool will be looking for a problem where there is none. If it's beneficial, then a fool will be looking for a resource where nobody should.
You know, we've had interpretation of this proverb in the past 2 hours, and the two of you have come up with the best. Yes, you've actually gotten to the heart of the matter. Thank you.
Indeed.
Yes.
There it is. And I guess a good place to us to just jump off into this conversation that we're having today. And, usually an event, something that happened on a particular day, is going to give rise to, a series of other events or certain conversations or the discourse that's going to shape things, whether it be a political conversation, whether it be an economic one, whatever it be. June 25th, 2024 stands out as one of those. That from there then launched conversations, launched certain realities about what the political landscape then would look like. Never before had we seen such engagement by a younger age in the population that was going to say, excuse me, we are here. And whether it's going to take us to then be able to push certain agenda, we're ready to take that position. And then people came to the realization that, okay, fine, actually certain things can happen. Whether it's an older generation, whether it's a younger generation, somebody's moving this conversation. And so that event is living rent-free in our minds as something that could then bring about other realities. And then we began to hear that this would be the representative of the youth. The youth has this huge baggage on their shoulders that they make up 70% of the population and that they are the tomorrow. And that, it goes on and on and on. But for some reason, we seem to still think that the voice of the young, the voice of the youth has been forgotten. And that it's not taken into consideration when we talk about national discourse, when we talk about politics, when we talk about governance and leadership and administration, that still we feel as though the voice of the youth is forgotten or neglected. So that forms the basis for what we'll be talking about today. And we can start off from a very, very simple, basic question. Has the voice of the youth in today's governance and leadership been forgotten? Let's start with you, Mwangi.
The voice of the youth, thank you for the question. The voice of the youth in today's government has honestly been forgotten. And the number one reason could be the fact that the youth are underrepresented in the parliament. So therefore, most decisions that are made are not directly what the youth anticipate. Mm-hmm. And one thing about we as youth, we have most of our conversations on social media and we want to be part of the system. There's a certain way, just like you said, as we go back to 25th June last year, it was because of an uproar by the youth because they felt like their needs were not being addressed in the right way. So the only way they could communicate was through exercising the constitutional right of right to assembly and picketing. But we have leaders who have been elected into parliament that are supposed to represent us. We have leaders that are supposed to articulate our issues to table bills that affect youth. But at the end of the day, you see that whatever these people do is more of to their own benefit rather than to what we as the youth anticipate or are looking forward to. So my number one point will be the fact that we have little or less representation in parliament. That's something we need to work on. Number two, it will have been more on our organization. We can make all the noise on social media. We can do all that. But for us to be part of the system, we need to be understood. We need to be listened to. So we might shout and heckle and say that the president is not listening to us. But at the end of the day, who's this particular leader who's going to represent us? The Article 100 of the Constitution requires that the youth should have representation, that the parliament should come up with specific legislation that are going to ensure that special interest groups, including the youth, should be encompassed in the current regime. But unfortunately, 14 years down the line, we haven't had any particular legislation that promotes the same. If we work on the first challenge of underrepresentation, then we can have our voices heard and we can articulate our issues in the best way possible. Yeah.
And what about you, Tiano?
What happened last year in June is likened to what children do. Children don't speak in words that we can hear, and the only way we get to give children attention is when they cry. So, but maybe children do speak, only that we don't hear what they say. And when we don't hear what they say, then they resort to crying, and then we react. And you realize when children cried, everybody reacted to the cry of the child, and what the child wanted was affected. But must we wait for the child to cry for us to act? Then the question, the right answer is no. Are the youth forgotten? Yes and no. Yes, in the way that our youth also we are spoiled. I'll want to say that we expect things to be handed down to us, other than going for them. When you ask that the kind of leaders we have in parliament are not working for us, have we presented alternatives to be voted in? Have we fronted ourselves, or the best of us, for elective positions? Have we voted? And the people who are tweeting and us who are active on social media, did we vote? And when we vote, on what principles did we vote? Did we line up and stay online to wait for your chance to say? Because the Constitution gives you the power to choose, to front yourself for elective position. Number 2, to choose the right people to lead you. The youth are the same people who are chanting party slogans during the election. The youth are the same people who are being weaponized to silence maybe voices of reason.
Yep.
So we need to first introspect ourselves as youth, because I want to believe even City here was a youth one day. So youth is not
a long time ago.
Yes. So being youth itself is not competence. It's not a qualification. It's a stage in life. So right now we want to champion for the rights of the youth, and we want the youth to be heard. 5 years to come will not be fitting in the same description.
Let me ask you this question. When we say youth, is it a homogeneous group? Is it, as when you say the things that you say, would you say that it's representative of all the people who fit into this bracket of youth?
Youth is an age, is a stage in life. So yes, the Kenyan population, 70% of the population fit in the bracket of 35 and younger, but it's not an homogeneous group. It's an age set. It's not a people who agree on everything. It's a people who happen to be of the same age.
Would you say they share similar problems?
They share similar problems, but the approach to solving them could not be similar.
Okay.
Which brings the next question is 70% of the population, as you say, yet according to data past election, majority of people who didn't even participate in the elections, or the youth, they didn't bother to register themselves. They didn't bother to get out to go and vote. Yet, if you look at the decisions that are being made, even the latest recommendations by UD and ODM, item number 4 is the economic investment in the youth. So in terms of the youth getting out there and pushing for their own agenda and making sure that they get a seat at the table is something that everyone sees and realizes the importance. But do the young people realize the importance of that and push the agenda in the right places?
I, as a youth, cannot wake up one morning and decide that I want to push my particular agenda if I do not get support. Before I wake up to come to Spice FM, I must be mentored by someone to tell me, I need you to do this because I have seen potential in you. Before I articulate myself, I need guidance. Before I decide that I need to vie for a political seat, as he has said, because he claims that the youth have not offer themselves for any political seats. The Constitution gives provisions for direct and indirect democracy. So in this particular case, we have indirect democracy where we elect representatives to the parliament to represent our views. So in this case, the youth make up 75% of the electorate in Kenya. These people, 290 people, cannot be. They represent that particular fraction of millions of people who voted during the electioneering period. Whoever I voted in might not be the particular leader that I got. So at this point, you're going to realize that as much as my ideologies and resonated with this particular person, I might have not had the chance of being there. So how am I going to communicate my needs? The only tool I have, my voice. How am I going to communicate? Social media. How am I going to, when we push these particular trends, we are raising our voices so that the people we elected to represent us can at least take a step back, and it invokes, like, you will have that feeling. What are they having? What are they talking? What is this conversation that the young people are having on social media? How am I going to listen to them, or how am I going to maybe table a bill in parliament that is going to be in line with that? But then if I take a back seat because I am not in parliament, if I take a back seat because I do not have anyone who is going to represent my views there, because I am not elected, I do not see how that is going to be realistically true in this particular case. So
have you heard of the phrase strength in numbers?
Yes.
You may not be homogeneous, but if problems are homogeneous and you have the numbers, do you think there's a correlation between these numbers and the change that you desire, and that these numbers can actually bring about the change that you desire?
Yes, they do. And there's something we say, the diversity of our voices is the strengthening of democracy. We cannot speak the same language. For democracy to thrive, we need to have the diverse voices. That's why we have the government and the opposition. So we have numbers in the government, we have numbers in the opposition. So these diverse voices, when they come together, we come up with a solution. Because if at all you are comfortable as the government, you just sat, because whatever you do is supposed to be the right thing. We are going to have a government, the Animal Farm. I think I read that book a little while ago, whereby monotony is the order of the day. Bureaucracy is the order of the day. Do you think we're going to thrive in a place whereby the government of the day is taking control of each and every person? I don't think so.
But pause for a second. You see, that argument could be argued as defeatist. You see, our constitution gives every individual in this country the power of sovereignty.
Yeah.
Okay? You are 70%. How does 70% lament that their interests are not being taken care of, and you're already a majority? What are you doing with this majority?
City, if the youth of this country wanted a president, a youth will be a president.
Yeah.
If the youth of this country wanted 70% of parliament to be represented by people who are less than 35 years and below, or people who represent the reasoning and the interest of that age group, that will happen. The problem is we are good at booing. We're not good at voting.
So the youth don't want
No.
a person. Because you've just said if they want, they would have it. So you don't want it enough?
I said earlier that we are a spoiled population. We expect mentorship. We deserve a job. We deserve to be given this.
Now.
We deserve to be given this.
So you're saying you self-sabotage?
We don't want this badly enough. We don't clamor for this.
Do you want it at all? Forget badly.
You see, wanting,
do you want it at all?
Wanting and sitting and waiting for it. There's a saying that power can never be given. Actually, nothing good will be given. There's a proverb at home.
No, power can be given.
It's taken.
Power can be given.
Okay.
Your constitution has already given you
the power. That's
Yes.
true. There's a saying or a story where I come from that if a man thought they are fit to marry, they went and declared their interest, and not just that, they presented themselves into the ring and fought any other man who wanted this particular woman. And the man who won could take this woman, and the man who lost will be told, you are not fit enough to protect, number one, yourself, not let alone protecting this woman. So June 24 was a turning point in this country, but we can't be having June 24s. We have a chance every 5 years to avoid June 24. How?
Why must we avoid it?
By avoiding it is, if we vote right, we don't need to have June 24.
How do you vote right?
By voting right, number one, take the initiative. Let youth present themselves for elective position. Number two, number one, how many youths even have voting cards? We all have Twitter accounts, Instagram account, TikTok accounts.
And you are trending.
Are we trending? We have iPhones and every other gadget that makes us make noise, but are we making the noise that matters?
Yes.
Are we representing our voices on the ballot?
It must matter to you. If you didn't matter, you wouldn't make the noise as repeatedly as you do.
Yet
50 plus 1 is not on Twitter.
It is actually.
It's on the ballot.
No,
I
it
have
is.
I have a contrary
Yeah.
opinion.
Go on, go. Yeah.
I have a contrary opinion from what Mokaya says, because he says we are spoiled generation. He says we need to be spoon-fed. I do not see anywhere where we have tokenism, whereby a youth has been given a particular position, take it and use it. But instead, we have to fight for our own positions. Now, the problem is, number one, the youth are people between the ages of 18 to 34. Okay, if I'm not wrong, 18 to 34. So if this particular age group of people are in university, most of them are in training institutions, most of them are facing unemployment. It is at this particular time that you have identity crisis. You do not know where you begin, you do not know where you end. So most of us are trying to look for a way to feed our stomachs, a way to fit into the system at this. So if the government of the day does not give us an opportunity to put our skills into practice, we cannot wake up one day. Because for me to run for a political seat, it does not just take my manifesto. It is a lot, and I cannot just wake up to be a symbol of just a person who just I have decided to vie as an MCA or women rep Nairobi County. Someone will come up. You're just a 22-year-old. What can you tell me? What do you want to show me? What difference are you bringing to the table? And then there's this person who has been brought up by the state, will come, is 40 years, has all the money. Wherever they get them, we do not know. And this person pours down the money, and I am here with my agenda. I am trying to push this agenda because I know I have very good points. I believe I can bring change. But at the end of the day, my financial muscle does not compare to this other person's financial muscle. So
Do you know there are people in this country who've been voted in at that very age you mentioned?
Yes,
and
I do.
they had nothing.
There is
Yes,
actually a young man, the previous administration, who was voted in, I think it was in Meru or Murigi, who actually went on campaigns on foot, on a cart, on his bicycle.
Do you know how he started? He decided to volunteer to teach.
Yes.
And he decided to buy, these books that tell you past exams and what have you.
Yeah.
The results of the students in that school improved.
how many cases of how many of such cases?
How many cases do you need to prove the point?
Prove the point.
Well, we need more people. Yeah, that is the point.
No.
But we need to empower the youth
No.
to be part of the
There's
conversation.
a point I'm trying to make here. You must stop this narrative that everybody talks about in terms of, I'm saying this gently and politely. Empowerment is a word I actually find a bit distasteful because half the time I have no idea what it means. There has to be a clarity as to what it is you want. The politics of money, if indeed you're a youth, you will be lost before you even begin because it's the one thing that characterizes the youth. You don't have the money.
Yes.
But why I mentioned that example, it means if you're talking about a concept, that example proves the concept that somebody can be elected without money, and it's not the only one.
Yes.
I do.
Salasia.
They are yes, and the number. I'm simply trying to say this: if you approach something like politics with the mindset of those who've been in it for the longest time, and you're a youth, you won't go anywhere. If you are done for, dusted. If you come up with an idea that resonates with people and is not a reminder of what they've had, you introduce an idea that with time, it's not instant, people will be listening to because they are accustomed to what you are talking about. And if you want the change you keep talking about as youth, then you must represent that change.
I do not dispute the fact that that is possible.
Yeah.
But my main point is when we do a comparative analysis on the situation on the ground, a reality check of the facts on the ground, the ground is, the terrain is a little bit tough for young people to take up leadership positions, and it's not only solely on the financial issues and all that, but it goes about to matters experience and whatnot.
Have you ever been a student leader when you were in college?
Yes, I was.
All right. Were they rich students who had more money than everybody else?
Of course they are.
Precisely. How did you end up being a student leader?
Campaign.
And the people who voted for you, were they the lecturers? Were they the
No.
cleaners? Who voted for you?
The student population.
Why did they vote for you?
The agenda.
Why did they? Yeah, why did they move? Yeah.
Yes.
Ideologies.
Yes.
Because we had similar ideologies. If I resonate with what you're saying, then I believe you're the right person to represent my
Did you also
views.
align yourself with the other political leaders in that university setup who had similar ideas?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Right there is the answer. I think while we discuss this, my approach to this is this: you can't have rights without responsibilities, and we are that generation of my rights, my rights, my rights. I believe it's time we also think about what have you done to deserve these rights, and what do you carry while you champion for these your rights. Affirmative action is not a concept in perpetuity. I want to believe that sometimes affirmative action comes with negative connotations. This child you are helping walk might not walk because they expect that they'll be helped to walk. These seats we have for the youth are there to show us that we can do it. But we can't be having nomination slots for seats for these youth that we are, that are making us shy away from going to fight it out. Similarly to the gender nomination seats. I have a dream that at some point we want these gender nomination seats to go to men, because the women we are trying to push have taken up the mantle. They are now vying, and they are now the majority, that now affirmative action is coming in to balance it from the male side. I also have a dream that someday we'll have too many of youth in parliament, that the affirmative action ticket is coming in to favor the older generation, that we have too many youth in parliament. Can we get somebody to represent the senior citizens?
Right.
Can we get somebody to represent over 45? So let's not wait for the affirmative action. And this affirmative action ends up with the wrong kind of youth. The people who are nominated to represent the youth are either, number one, not youth, number two, TikTok stars.
So do you accept that the problem is within the party structures? Because why would you nominate someone who is not a youth?
The problem is
Why
you
would-
can't reap where you didn't sow.
Oh, okay.
If you don't vie and lose, you can't be nominated. You must be in the space for you to benefit from this.
You
space.
must
Let's
give-
double click on that just a little bit more. We'll take a break at this point and we'll come back and say, okay, so then must you be in the space in order to lose, to be nominated? For affirmative action to take place, you must be in the room.
Yes,
Somewhere.
exactly.
You must be doing something.
Yes.
You must be organizing, mobilizing something. We'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll discuss and continue. Mwangu, Atemo, and Otieno Mokaya are our guests this hour. And we're looking at, okay, has the voice of the youth actually been forgotten? We'll continue with that conversation at 24 minutes to 10.
This is the situation.
This week on Club Kiboko. I'm told you have to hold on these tightly and you don't let them go.
This is what I'm talking about right here on Straight Up Show.
Bob Francis, Bob Golemo, na Bob Male, ne ma bro.
I am not a woman.
Nini tena nyaguto, ni nini?
In marriage, having somebody who understands you in all season is very important.
I'd rather have bad times with you than good times with someone else.
to the Smarter Bundle today. Dial *544# or visit My Airtel app. Airtel Smarter Bundle. Browse, chat, call. Airtel Money. Airtel, a reason to imagine.
This week on Club Kiboko. I'm told you have to hold on these tightly and you don't let them go.
This is what I'm talking about right here on Straight Up Show.
You must have tried and lost, nominated, and we say the nominated positions are actually a tool of affirmative action, whereby we say, okay, fine, if we need to quote unquote force a situation whereby you will see the potential of this human being in terms of what they're able to do, but you can't do that because we've seen that maybe the elective process doesn't quite work that well. So we're going to nominate and give those people an opportunity, and usually from a nominated position you've seen people able to go into other positions by dint of what they've been able to do. But on the other hand, we're saying, Otieno is saying to even get nominated, you have to be playing in there. You have to be swimming in the pool.
Yeah, and I think just to bounce on what Ndu is saying, I'll come to your party, yeah, because your former chairperson, Billion Ojiwa, was the chairperson of the Kanu Youth Caucus. And through that, he vied for political seat in Mathare because of the experience that he had gathered and swimming with the politicians and wanting so much to get it. That means for the youth to be able to have a voice or to get that seat at the table, it will not be handed to you. You have to be on that 4x4 race and take that baton and run with it. Is that the case?
Yes, it is. We cannot wake up and hand over a particular position to you because we feel like, okay, we can. If you're really working, if you're up to task. I mean, according to merit, that's how meritocracy works. So in this particular case, if most political parties do not give the youth a chance to be heard, do not give the youth a chance to be on the decision-making table. So at the end of it all, you will find someone being nominated. It's not even a youth to represent the youth, and then you wonder, where did the rain start beating us? So the rain starts beating us from the grassroots level, from our political parties, down from the leadership structures in the political parties. Because as a member of KANU, I am part of the decision-making table at 22. It's not that I woke up one day and they told you, Atemo, we think you're beautiful, or you have very pretty hair or eyes, so we need you to be part of this particular team. But it's because of what I bring to the table as a youth. So in this particular case, for me to be part of the conversation, I need to be given a platform. But when I'm in a party that does not give me a platform to showcase what I have no opportunity at all. But rather, the only weapon I have is social media. The only weapon I have is going to the streets. Then that is the only weapon I'll use to communicate. So in this particular case, it gets back to the leaders in this particular political parties. How well do you mentor the youth in your parties? Because for me to be part of this particular party, I will have to look at it. Do their ideologies align with mine? Do their values align with mine? Do they respect the rule of law? Do they advocate for inclusion? If I as a youth feel like this party aligns with me, I will go and be part of it. Now, how aggressive you are, how you articulate yourself, how you communicate is what is going to make you stand out from the other people, and is going to make you to be recommended by this particular party or person to represent them at a particular level. As you can see right now, most youths on Twitter, as much as he's saying we are all tweeting and all that, we are.
You're not.
I am. I tweeted before I came here.
Yeah.
How else? How else? Social media is the easiest way we can communicate right now. True, false. Social media is the easiest way I can give feedback to the legislators. Social media is the only way I can know that there's a particular bill that needs me to give my remarks on the same. So if I am not informed, that's why we say we come from a point of information. We do not just want appointments because we are youth. We want to be part of the conversation. Now make me be part of the conversation, because as a youth in Mandera County, I will not come to Nairobi and say that I want to be part of this particular political party. I'll be asked, what do you bring to the table? What do I bring to the table? I've just come from the university. Unless you give me a chance to be part of the table, I cannot show you what I'm bringing to the table. Unless you listen to me, you cannot understand what I am thinking.
You know, there's a question that's swelling in my head. I have to ask it of the two of you. What is it that prevents the youth from just forming their own party?
Leave alone even that city.
Yes.
What is stopping the youth from joining these political parties and changing these political parties
There is
to
a story.
fit?
Can you?
There is a story, and this story is not a narrative, it's actually reality. In 2013, when we were in university, the former governor of Nairobi approached University of Nairobi student leaders and asked them to vote for him.
2013?
2013, yes.
The governor then was?
The governor in waiting, so to speak, that time.
Yeah.
Came and asked of us to register as voters and vote for him. There's also the governor of Kisii County currently did the same. As leaders of University of Nairobi, we came together and asked, these people want us to do things for them. What are they doing for us? We fronted one of us, and his name is Moses Ogeto, who was a third-year student, and said, for us to support you, we also want this boy on the ballot.
Was he put on the
Moses of Ghetto was put on the ballot.
Did he win?
He's on the third term as MCA Kilimani Ward.
Yes.
Yes, I know. He
So-
was MCA for a long time.
Yes. So I'm saying this because there, as City said, there are examples.
Yes.
There's no free lunch, and nobody will come to your apartment and tell you, Otieno Mokaya, you're a very brilliant young guy. I want you to come. I nominate you. I believe in the hierarchy of competence. What that means is, if the first best is not there, then you take the second best. Then you take the third best. And I believe that is how things should be. Social media is a good tool. Have you thought about it as a campaign tool? If one tweet can get 1 million retweets, how much visibility can that tweet give you if you're on the ballot?
It can, but you see, there's a larger conversation if you're talking about politics and the politics of this country. And the larger conversation here is issues.
Yes.
Being popular, joining a popular party, that's what we do. And many of these parties are completely devoid of applying any issues that you can see. They talk about them. They sign all manner of documents about them. But you never really quite see it. The negotiation that you involved yourself in, again, I'm going back to the numbers. Imagine what you could negotiate. Imagine what you could negotiate with those numbers. Because these numbers are everywhere in the country. It's not as though there's one part of the country where there are less youth than others. The youth are everywhere. Because if that negotiation is understood, that is for those who want to join existing political parties. We've understood the power and the positivity of negotiation in this country. People negotiate. Because I've asked a question about forming your own party. You've heard of the green parties in Europe and in the West.
Yes.
When they started, They were dead in the water. Nobody gave a hoot about them. And you know why? The conversation was of the big parties like the ones we have here. Okay? Right now, it's decades later, yes, but those green parties form governments. At the time they started, nobody thought of it. At independence, the average age of our ministers was 42. And the reason it was 42, you had people like Jomo Kenyatta, you had people like Oginga Odinga, and a few others who were not in their youth. You had ministers in their 30s, and it wasn't 1, it wasn't 2, it wasn't 3. 30s, somewhere in their 20s. So this youth thing, when you have a conversation, you must have a perspective. There's nothing like being too young.
Yes.
Because if you're in that age bracket, you are far more informed than that 29-year-old at independence.
Yes.
Far more informed. You know a heck of a lot more than that person did. More importantly, you have a heck of a lot more information at your disposal than they ever did. So you have no excuse.
And as well, one would ask, there is the clamor for the youth to take up this space. But what is your agenda? What are you bringing on the table? Because even if you just go on those who are listening to us on the socials, they're asking, the youth need to sit back, we need to strategize and come up with an agenda that resonates with everybody else. What are you doing as the young people to come up with an agenda that will convince everybody else to give you that vote?
That can be sustained because, you know, we can't run away from realities, isn't it? That, again, coming from the event that we saw in last year, is that then there are certain individuals who did stand up and kind of offer, you know, themselves. Were they offering themselves, and was there a need for them to be rallied behind by everybody else? But then we've kind of seen them absorbed into, you know, pre-existing entities. Number one, is that an issue? Or are we saying that youth must come up, form their own, and then have people rally behind them? But we've seen that, you know, you kind of, folks who may have come up before get kind of swallowed up into what exists. Is there anything necessarily wrong with that, Wango?
Well, I believe that at the end of it all, we all have the end game. Politics is a game of interests. I have my own interests, you have your own interests. So in this case, the thing that the
Wait. Why is politics a game of interests?
As it stands, as the status quo, politics is
which status quo?
broad-based government.
Oh, that's the status quo for Kenya at the moment? Okay.
Broad-based government.
As they say in French, touché.
So it's more of a game of interest.
So is that a constant that we must live with?
No, it is not a constant that we must live with. That we must live with, and that's why the youth are not comfortable with the system as it is. Because when we have a status quo that only feeds to the greed of a particular person or individual, it becomes so difficult to engage or to literally have the views of other people taken into consideration. So in this case, we as the youth are only advocating for a system that works. A system that works means a healthcare system that works, an education system that works, a housing program or a housing program that works for us. We need tangible. We need to see things happen. We do not need to see experiments, because you cannot wake up in the morning and tell us the system needs more time for it to work. People are going to the hospital every day. You cannot keep on saying that, wait, the SHA shift will work at some point. What if I die today because I was not able to use, because of erroneous hitches here and there? It does not make sense.
Do you know something? Even as you're speaking, forgive me for interrupting you. You know, some of these fellows who are approaching an age where they might even qualify as being fossils. Do you know that just a few decades ago, they were saying exactly the same thing you're saying, but they were doing more. They were agitating for it at a time when you couldn't even agitate. They were opposing a system that it was a single party system. They were opposing systems, and it wasn't one person. There were a number. They were saying, this is what I'm trying to tell you. They were saying, they didn't have social media to do it for them. They were saying it because some of them had been elected. So in parliament, and this was at the risk of being detained, at the risk of being jailed, they would say it. And they would say, this is where we stand, this is what we thought. The reason why I give the example, I'm simply saying, this journey that has gotten us here is a long one, and the baton, as you call it, has actually been handed to the youth.
Yes.
They may not see it, but it has. Now, the responsibility that goes with it, is that something that you're willing to take? Because what the youth seem good at is discussing these issues. The older people are even better at discussing it. But doing what needs to be done and addressing it and asking, okay, this is where we are. What do we do? Beyond talking about it, what do we do? Beyond demonstrating,
right.
what
activities
do we do?
are you involved in today that would say, okay, fine, you're plowing the ground to then be able to take it or to be able to participate in the future? What would those look like, Otieno, where you say, okay, fine, there's an opportunity for you to be part of, the dispensation? It could be current, it could be future, whatever the case may be. But there's got to be something. I mean, we tend to separate this political space from anything else that you would normally do. No way anybody's giving you a job of some serious repute if you don't have some kind of experience. There's no way. So why do we separate it? And you by your own admission, you've said, you know what? You need to be in the room at the very least. You need to have done some things. You need to be doing something that's going to then say, okay, it gives rise to the position. What are those?
They say a walking man is on his way to meet his luck. You can't sit somewhere and then
expect it to drop in your lap.
Yes. So everybody knows or tends to look like they know what the issues are. Everybody will complain about how the health system is not working. Everybody seems to understand that we need better housing. Everybody needs to understand that we are importing too much. Everybody seems to understand that we need production here so that we stop exporting jobs to where we're importing things from. And then that goes a long way into reducing the amount of conversation we should have on unemployment. But those conversations have where they impact the most. You go to the cathedral to pray because we believe that's where it's closer to God. And the cathedral of these issues that we are talking about, the political cathedral, is in parliament. If you cannot walk, then crawl. If you can walk, then your ambition is to run. If you run, then your ambition is to fly. I believe, as youth or as citizenry in general, our role does not stop at speaking. Our role goes to taking the action where the action matters. You can play football in the kitchen, but you are not going to score in the sufuria. Where you should play is in the arena, where your score is recorded and a trophy is awarded. And I think where that is number one, let's vote. Number two, we present ourselves and give our people or the people of Kenya alternatives so that we don't come and say, people will vote for the best alternative they can see. If there's only the old guards in the ballot, of course, the outcome of that election will end up with those old guards. And what we are doing is, I don't know whether this is the right thing to say, but she said she's in campus leadership. I was there when I was in university. Currently, many youth are affronting themselves for elective positions, including myself. And that is why we want to churn that road. But again, the question begs, which vehicle and under what ideology?
What political party are you aligned to?
Now, I'm not aligning myself to any political party. I'm aligning myself to issues. And until that time when one political party comes with that fashion of issues that I want to align myself with, then I will. And hinted on something, that there were people who came out as vibrant after the Gen Z Maandamano, and they have taken their own paths, which is right in their freedoms and rights. Maybe what they stood for, which might not be what we saw, aligns to that political party. The issues they were championing for, which mimicked the issues that we thought we were championing for, aligned with their personal interest in that political party. You'll wonder why we take. I think there's a sound bite you habitually play where somebody says, let's not say that we have political party, let's just say we are Luos and we find ourselves in Kenya and we are like this, and we don't want, as this new generation, to follow that route. Let's not relate our second names to a political party that you are like. If I see Otieno, I know. You see an orange, you will be there. If I see a Mwangi, I'll know they'll see red and they'll be there. I see a yellow and I see Kiprotich. That's not how we should do it. Can we look at it differently? Can we say, I'm in this party because it speaks to my agenda, it speaks to what I believe in? Because ultimately, we inherited this country from Akina City. We are holding it in trust for Generation Alpha.
You do know that I'm sitting here.
So we have a trusteeship role that the country hand on to the next generation should be better than we were given, and I believe that is the biggest interest that we hold, not the interest that will put food in our table today, but the interest that ensures that the generation that comes after us won't complain about the same things that we are complaining about today. And how is that done? Obama, when he was campaigning for Kamala Harris, he used to say, don't boo,
vote,
do something.
Are there people who have crocodilian features like myself, who you think might represent the youth agenda?